dark eyes, short hair, soft skin, it isn't fair. Can I get close to you? One drink, two puffs, three looks.
Welcome back to another episode of So Simone. I am Simone and I am sharing my journey as a very beginner sewist. Today I am tackling a project I've wanted to do for a while. This one is by far going to be the most complex project I've ever done. Keeping in mind I've sewn like 4 things before. I'm going to be making a kind of like Gani inspired top. But the thing that's going to make it a little bit more exciting is the fact that I'm not actually following a pattern. What I have been doing all morning is I found a video on Jess Dang's channel. Love her. She actually teaches you how to self-draft this pattern. I made these pattern pieces from my own measurements, but I noticed that right at the end of her video, she uses a binding to close off the edges, which I don't really love. Plus, we're going into a slightly chillier time here in Mexico where I live. So I had a thought. What I'm going to do instead of doing the binding is I'm going to do a double layer front so that we can like sandwich the seams in the middle. Another thing that I'm doing is I'm making the sleeves longer, and she's got very thick ties, but that means that you've got to have the top pretty wide open, and I am not built to walk around with no bra on. So I've decided to go with very thin ties so I can hopefully tie the shirt kind of the whole way together so you don't really see too much bra. So today I'm going to be using this beautiful blue and white striped fabric. I was just really drawn to the blue. I love to wear blue. And the stripes. I think the stripes will be very nice. It'll add like an extra layer of wow to the project. To start off with, I need to cut out my pattern pieces, and then we're going to start assembling this Gani top. Oh, am I bothering you, my bumps? I'm so sorry. Oh, big stretch for a big boy. Is Mom gonna make you a matching bandana this time? Okay, so I've cut out my front bodice pieces. I've got 4 of these, and I've got my back bodice piece, and then I'm cutting out my sleeves. The only thing that I'm not cutting out yet is going to be the bottom ruffle, and I just need to explain why. So in Jess Dang's tutorial, she shares with you how to do that. However, one major adjustment that I'm making with this pattern is I'm going to do some darts, because my body type definitely looks better with things that are more cinched into my waist. I'm just shooting in the dark here. I've never done a dart before. I've just kind of like seen it on YouTube, so I just added this. According to my own calculations, I don't really know if this is going to work. So I have marked this out, and once I have actually sewn these pieces together, then I can measure the bottom of the bodice pieces to measure out the ruffle portion precisely. To mark out the what do you call them? The darts. To mark out the darts, before I took the pattern off of the fabric, I snipped about 1/2 centimeter and 1/2 centimeter here at the beginning of the triangle, and then I just marked the top of the triangle with a pin. Before I start assembling this, I'm actually going to make a little freehand pattern for the ties. I've got to make 6 ties, and then also something that I need to do is I need to self-draft. I don't know what you call this. It's like the little flap that would go on the top of the back bodice piece. So essentially it would like go here and it would close off the seams. I'm just going to have to freehand that and see how that turns out. Once I've done that, I think we can start assembling, which is very exciting. Okay, I think I'm going to make the straps about 8 centimeters wide, 20 centimeters long. I want them to be long enough to be able to like pull a nice bow, you know. And for those of you who watched my 2 first videos where I was complaining about not having a ruler that's long enough, I finally got a 30 centimeter ruler, and this one actually also has inches. I'm not familiar with inches. We didn't learn that in school, but yeah, that's quite helpful. I think I'm going to start trying to like familiarize myself with the inch equivalent in centimeters. Okay, so for that back flap, please let me know in the comments if you know what that back flap is called. But for the purposes of this video, it shall be referred to as back flap. I'm going to use the back bodice piece that I created. I'm going to basically take this shape and measure down by 5 or 6 centimeters and kind of like follow the shape, and then obviously cut on the fold so that it matches up with the back bodice. I don't know, it can't be that hard. Yeah, you can more or less see the highlighter through it. So I'm just going to highlight the seam allowance on this so I can trace that shape. I'm just going to trace the highlighter line that I can see through here. That's my husband making us spaghetti bolognese for lunch. Hi, husband. And that's Ted about to bark. No? Okay. I cut out the back flap, which looks right. I mean, that looks like the shape. And these are my straps. I've cut out 6 pieces, so we can have 1, 2, 3. And I decided that before I go ahead and start working on the main part of this top, I'm going to just get my straps ready. So I'm going to take the good side, I'm going to fold it in. So you've got the good side on the inside. Pin in place. I'm just going to probably sew 1.5 centimeters to 2 centimeters down and across, because I really want these straps to be thin enough to allow me to, you know, tie the blouse as closed as possible. Oh, okay, I've got a straight stitch. My length is about 2.5 and my needle is in the middle. So we begin. So I'm stopping right where I want my corner to be with the needle in the fabric, lifting up my presser foot, maneuvering my fabric to 90 degrees. Wait, no, it needs to go the other way. Yes. Back. Oh, no. No, I think this is very thin. Actually, I don't have a loop turner, so there's no ways I'm going to be able to turn this the right way around. Okay, I'm going to have to unpick this and start again and reconsider my thickness. So I really envisioned having very thin, delicate straps. However, that is not going to be possible because I don't have a loop turner to help me pull it the right way around. I do, however, have a straw, a metal straw. This is probably the best thing that I've got that will help me turn the strap the right way around. So I can make these straps probably about that thick. It's not ideal, but I'm just working with what I've got right now. Obviously, my sewing toolkit is not very extensive right now because I am just a very beginner, but we are just doing what we can with what we have. So rainy season has officially arrived here where I live in Mexico. Ted is in such a bad mood today. He absolutely hates the rain. I love it. I think it's beautiful. Anyways, I have done 5 of the 6 straps so far. They took quite some time, but they've actually turned out really nice. A lot better than I originally thought when I tried to do the first one. So I thought I would just show you guys. I came up with like a little bit of a technique. So this one I've sewn, and I'm just about to show you how I'm turning them inside out without actually having a loop turner. So you'll notice that the strip is way thicker than a finished strip. Basically, I've sewn it down here, so I've made it much skinnier than how I originally cut it, and now I just need to get rid of the bulk. So I'm just going to trim it as close to the stitching as possible, being very careful not to actually catch any of the stitches. I'm separating the fabric, and I'm using a pencil to kind of like shove it in there. I'm not saying that this technique is perfect, and I definitely now have a loop turner on my sewing wish list, but if you don't have a loop turner and you would like to make very skinny straps, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? Okay, so we're kind of getting there. Okay, so now that the edge of the pencil has gone all the way in, I don't want to continue using the pencil, because what I found is that if you press the pencil too hard, it's going to go straight through your fabric. Speaking from experience, I had to remake one of these straps. So now I'm going to use the straw because it doesn't have a pointy end, so it helps me feed it through without making any holes in the fabric. And we're just going to push it through until you can see fabric on the other side. Pull it off the straw, and Bob's your uncle. You have a skinny strap without a loop turner. Okay, so before we start assembling anything, I'm just going to be doing like prep work now. I need to finish off the back flap and I need to do my darts. Once those things are ready, then I'm going to start assembling. Because I don't have a serger yet, I'm just going to use the zigzag stitch on my sewing machine to close off the bottom of this back flap. I am just about to sew my very first dart. I've got the bad side of the fabric facing me, and I want to make sure that the dart is like on the bad side of the fabric. So I've got the top part of the dart marked by this pin. Then I'm going to take the two little snips that I made at the bottom of the back bodice, and I'm going to pinch the fabric together, and I'm going to line these up, and I'm going to put a pin there. I just need to kind of follow this rough line on the sewing machine. I don't know, I feel like I should be marking this with a pencil or something. I don't know. I'm gonna give it a try. I can always unpick.
With my eyes open, awash in light from another morning alive. I wanna hear you laugh, I wanna hear you cry, just wanna hear you use your lungs. Call it God, call it happenstance, a second chance, but I can't lose you, I can't lose you, I can't lose you again.
Okay, so we are making fabulous progress today, and everything has turned out better than I expected so far. So everything is basically prepped. Before I can move on to assembling anything, we need to iron. Ironing really takes a project from me to the darts that you just saw me do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to iron them flat, but I'm going to iron them towards the underarm seams. So all of them are uniform. And yeah, considering I did not have a pattern to follow and I've never done darts before, I think that I nailed the placement. Okay, so now that I'm finished ironing all of my bodice pieces, I'm just going to measure the back bodice, which is around 48 centimeters, and then a front bodice piece, which is about 25 centimeters, 39 centimeters. Okay, I think I've got all of my measurements to cut out my peplum pieces. So I've cut out the back ruffle and the two front ruffles, and I have enough fabric left over to make a matching bandana for Ted. The previous project that I did was this fabric, which is exactly the same except light blue and dark blue. So I think I'm going to make him a double-sided bandana. One side, other side. Beautiful. I'm going to start off by putting the back flap on the back flap onto the back bodice, and then we're going to move on to sandwiching the front bodice pieces together and adding in the straps.
Remember me, we used to love each other so passionately. Now I'm cold and gray, and I'm looking for you to remind me how to feel.
Just to recap, I've got the bodice pieces facing up towards me. We're going to have the straps on top of that, and now we're going to sandwich those to create that double layer. So now I'm putting a good bodice side facing down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin the top bodice pieces together, including the straps all the way down the neckline and all the way down the front center. I was just about to say to my husband, I think that this is the first full day of sewing that I've gotten through since I started that I haven't had to use my seam ripper. This is Sally the seam ripper, until I got to the second front bodice, and I was like, whoa, this is incorrect. This one's fine. I've got the bad side facing out with the dot on the bad side, good side facing in with the dot on the bad side. I've got the right piece facing the right way. I sewed my dot towards the good side of the fabric and not the bad side of the fabric, so I have to just seam rip this dot before I can move on. But other than that, everything is pretty much prepared to go to the sewing machine, and I'll be able to do all of this kind of at once, including Ted's little bandana. So that's really exciting. I'm really excited with the progress that I made today, but I'm kind of done for the day. See you guys tomorrow. Hi, I went and I fixed my dart, so now everything that needs to be sewn together is pinned together. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine, but before we do that, I'm just going to show you. First off, we're sewing the back flap to the back bodice. We are sewing our front bodice pieces together, so we've got front bodice, straps, front bodice times 2. And then of course we've got the bear's double-sided bandana, which actually matches my skirt and will eventually match this top when it's done. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine. We've got a lot of sewing to get done. Once these are together, then I think we're going to have a piece that starts to look like something. Oh, this is my little skirt that I just finished. I of course made a whole video, so if you want to see it, it's the one before this one. Okie dokie. I also pinned the ends of the straps to the other side of the bodice so that they don't get all wonky, so they hopefully stay straight while I'm sewing them in. Also so that they don't get stuck anywhere, so that's just a little tip. So I'm just doing a straight stitch with a length of 2.0, needles in the middle, and then anytime I get to a strap, I'm just going to go back and forward maybe once or twice just to reinforce that, especially over the booby part.
You may know me by my feet, but it's something I'm trying to change. But it's hard to wake up without that caffeine in your cup. A little shot of courage to start the day.
Ted, my lumps, are you ready for your new bandana, my bumps? So we'll get back to the top in just a moment, but I just wanted to show you how I do Ted's bandana. I've just sewn around the edges Funny enough, Ted actually loves to get dressed up. So that's why I make them for him. If he didn't like to wear them, I wouldn't do it, but he actually loves to get dressed up. So he comes from the Humane Society in the Cayman Islands. And what they do there to help get the dogs adopted is they dress the dogs up and take them to the various parades that they have on island throughout the year, like the Pirate Week parade, for example. So I would imagine that he was part of one of those parades once or twice before, so he associates a fun day out with being dressed up. He definitely has positive association with getting dressed up. All right, so I just gave it a quick press. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a straight stitch. Now what we're going to do is a straight stitch all the way around the 3 sides of the bandana. Goodness me. Okay. Okie dokie. It looks so good. It turned out very beautifully. Come on, baby, look what I got for you. Why are you ignoring me? Ted, my love, come see what I've got. Oh, yes. Look what I have. Sit for me, my love. Okay, let's take this one off. Have you still got yogurt on your face? Let's fold him in it just a little bit. Oh, you're so beautiful with your new bandana. Right? You have a brand new bandana and it's reversible. And I've got my little matching skirt. Oh, so nice. Okay, so I did not complete my goal of finishing this top the other day. That was actually Saturday. And while I was filming, my husband was away watching the football game with our neighbors. And then after I put Ted's little bandana on, my husband arrived home and then we were like, let's watch Only Murders in the Building. We had a nice weekend, watched every single episode that is currently available of Only Murders in the Building. By the way, I think it is my favorite season so far. I'm not a true crime person at all. Like, I get very grossed out very easily. I get scared very easily. But I really enjoy Only Murders in the Building. Anyways, let's just pick up where we left off. I now need to understitch the 3 bodice pieces that I had originally sewn together. Oh, I was just testing this out. It's looking very cute so far. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sewing the seam against the back side, but I'm going to be doing this facing down. Let us do this.
I wrote down in a book, love, all the things that I thought you'd say, all those glances upon the white of my heart still remain. When I caught myself thinking I would look down and smile, I knew I would wait for you. I knew I would wait a while.
Okay, so now we're onto our back bodice piece. And basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take this extra seam and I'm going to be sewing it onto the back flap. Okay, so before we move on, I am just going to give all of these pieces that we understitched a nice press.
We found love, so we left and sailed away. Distant lands in the hand of the hand we spent our days. So give me a shot so I can make this dream come true. Spend my days.
So now that our 3 bodice pieces are understitched and pressed nicely, we can finally put them together, which is really exciting. So I've got the good side facing me, and then I'm going to take the good side of one of the front bodice pieces, which I've marked with this pin, and I'm going to lay it flat. I'm going to open up the front bodice and sandwich it around the back bodice. This little sandwich technique is going to mean that all of these raw edges are hidden. I'm just going to be sewing that along there, and then we'll come back and we'll add the other front bodice piece. Okay, so let's see if this worked. No visible seams. no visible seams. So the sandwich technique did work. Okay, so we've got the front and the back officially attached. It's really starting to look like something. I believe the next step is to add the ruffles. I just need to go double check, but so far I'm very, very excited about this. We are now going to be looking at the ruffle pieces. So this is my long piece, which will be attached to the back bodice. And then these are my two front pieces. So for the two front pieces, I basically need to make a little hem down the side. So this would be the part that would be here. So it needs to be closed off. So I'm going to turn this around to the bad side and just make a very small hem. Now I need to do a basting stitch on the top of these ruffles, but I just need to be very careful to make sure that these pieces are actually mirrored so that we've got the right side of the fabric facing out. I'm going to just be starting right after the hem. Okay, so now I'm going to be joining the ruffles to the bodice pieces. We've got the good side of the back bodice facing up. We've got the good side of the ruffle facing down, so good sides touching. And now I'm just going to attach the corners. Now I can start pulling the thread through to make the ruffles.
Gotta get out of here. I need to go. And at least the tracks I won't be back. Maybe those will take me home.
Now that the back ruffle has successfully been put on, I need to do the front ruffles. We're going to be doing the same sort of sandwich technique like we did for the shoulders, so that the seams are all going to be hidden. The right side of my front bodice piece facing up, and then I'm picking up the front ruffle where the hem is on the side with the ties and the basting stitch is touching the bottom of the front bodice. Now that I've got the two ends and the center of the ruffle attached to just one of the front bodice pieces, I'm going to fold it over. It's a little bit confusing, but once you've got the concept of it, it gets a little bit easier. Okay, I'm going to do the second one and then I'm just going to do some overlocking on the back bodice, and then I think we can move on to the sleeves and then we're almost done. This is so exciting. Oh my gosh, yes. Okay. Now I can actually put this aside and we are going to start working on the sleeves. So I'm just going to be marking my back every single pin. I just dropped every single pin all over the floor. Oh wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. I need to actually do a basting stitch so that we can create the ruffle on the sleeves. So before we start attaching this, let's go over to the machine. So I've just marked out with some pins where my basting stitch is going to start and where it's going to end, just so that the ruffles are even on both sleeves. Needle in the middle, length of 4, straight stitch. So this is going to be an armhole and I've got the good sides facing up, and I'm going to take the top of the sleeve and have the good side of the sleeve facing down. So we've got the back corner, we've got the front corner. And then I made a little notch in the center of the sleeve, and I will match that up with the seam. Okay, now before we get to the basting stitch, I'm just going to be pinning up to where the basting stitch begins. Something that I found that works particularly well for me is loading up with pins. I don't like to just pin very sparsely because I feel like that's when I lose fabric and things start to get very wonky. I'd rather have far too many pins than too few pins. I have now pinned from the corners of the sleeve all the way up to where the basting stitch starts, and now you see I've got a lot of extra fabric. So I'm going to gently pull the thread through to create the ruffles and evenly space them out. I love a nice puffy sleeve, so I'm quite happy to have quite a big ruffle. Now that I've pulled the ruffle through, the sleeve is the same length as the fabric that it's going to be connected to. So I'm going to do that on the other side, attach it, and then we're attaching our first sleeve. I'm going to be sewing all along here, and then just to finish it off, I'll just be doing a zigzag stitch on the edge. Okay. Something doesn't seem right here. Let's try this again. It's looking so cool. I'm so excited for this. I love how ruffled it is on the top. I'm just going to be doing the exact same thing for the other side, and then I believe we can join them all together, do a few hems, and Bob is your uncle. We're going to have a brand new top to wear.
I wrote down in a book, love, all the things that I thought you'd say, all those glances upon the white line.
Basically what I'm doing now is I'm just going to be attaching all of this down here, and then of course on the other side, and then we can finish off the sleeves with a little elastic and finish off the bottom with a hem, and then we're done. Shout out to my lovely husband who's making lunch for us as usual.
Husband, personal chef, housekeeper. Just kidding.
Just on sewing days. I'm the primary cook in this house. It's just on sewing days that he cooks for us. I am starting at the at the seams. Now I can move down the arm. This would be like the armpit region. We've pinned the sleeve all the way to the end. Now I'm going to be pinning the side of the blouse together, starting with the seams where the ruffles are. I'm just going to start with that just so that I get it nice and perfectly lined up.
We found love, so we left and sailed away. Distant lands in the hand of the hand we spent our days. So give me a shout so I can make this dream come true. Spend my days sitting next to you. I'll spend my days sitting next to you. Calling down to the water.
Okay, so I've done the stitching and the zigzag stitch of one entire side of this. So let's see. No! No, I have to unpick all of this. So this is what it looks like joined, and then I've obviously got a very big sleeve hole here. This is eventually going to be all scrunched up. Now where I went wrong is, you know how the front bodice is double lined? I actually missed the top part of this, so this is completely open. So that sucks, but It's really looking like it's going to fit very nicely. I'm very happy with the way that it's turning out. Anyways, that is where we are right now. I'm about to go and seam rip this whole thing and do it again. You guys just have to see what my husband made us for lunch. Pollito, frijoles y arroz. Lunch was a 10 out of 10. Very, very good. Todo muy rico. But now it is back to the top. Sally the seam ripper. Two things that I learned from this particular boo-boo is I sewed the whole thing and then I also did my zigzag stitch on the end without first checking if I had sewed it correctly. I was just full on confident, yes, this is amazing. So now I've got two separate seams to rip here. And number two is I think I'm like very scared to like make my seams too big. I'm always trying to like make the seam as small as possible. I don't know why. I guess I'm just like, well, the smaller the seam, the more room I'm gonna have in the clothing. I don't know. I am afraid that I'm afraid that I really messed this up. So I've already been sat here for a good half an hour undoing the zigzag stitch as gently as possible. And now I'm trying to undo the real stitch. But what's actually happening is this fabric is literally just tearing right where it was stitched. I think it's a very delicate fabric. I'm wondering now if it's maybe the best thing to just take my scissors and just cut the seam off. Just cut it as close to the seam as possible. Obviously I'm gonna lose some of the sizing and I don't know. I honestly think it's my only option right now. Okay, this is so scary. All my hard work. Okay, well, RIP. And I'm just gonna go ahead and redo this whole thing, and then we're gonna do the other side. And that is where I will see you guys again. Hi. Quatty, quatty. Hi. So we've got the whole garment together. Now, as you can see, I've got big flapping wings. So what I'm doing next is I'm going to be creating a little tunnel at the end of these sleeves so that I can feed this little elastic band through. So it will basically be a nice big bunched up sleeve. So I'm going to fold this up once just to close off the zigzag stitch, and then I'm going to fold it over again big enough to fit my elastic through. So I've got my little opening over here. Okie dokie. So before I do the other sleeve, I just want to make sure that I like this. I've got a safety pin on both sides of my elastic, and I'm going to feed it through. Okay. Okay, so I've just got my elastic band overlapping ever so slightly, and I'm going to be doing a zigzag stitch, and I'm going to go back and forward a few times just to reinforce it.
Take two.
Okay, the elastic is not moving anywhere. I feel like whenever I'm getting so close to finishing a piece, that's when I have like the most snags, like the most little tricky things happen. And then I finish like 3 hours after I thought I would finish. I'm gonna feed that through, even it out a little bit. Okay, so I can't believe we are finally on the home stretch. The sleeves are done. I love them. They're so cute. And now literally all we need to do is the hem around the bottom of the ruffle. I'm so excited to wear this. Of all of the pieces that I've made so far, this one I can assure you I'm going to get so much use out of.
Sharp eyes, short hair, soft skin, it isn't fair. Can I get close?
Are the boys home from their walk? Did you see Mike and Fiona, my loves? Oh my gosh. Okay, this baby just needs a little bit of a press and we are done. I finished the hem last night and then I was like, no, we need ideal lighting conditions to be able to show this off. So this is the final product. I am so happy with it. I just think it turned out so beautifully. I'm so proud of it. The fact that this started on a piece of paper and became like an actual wearable piece of clothing blows my mind. I'm so happy with it. And I think that I'm going to get a ton of use out of it. I absolutely love it. We'll definitely be making it in more colors. The only thing that I would change, and yes, I know I'm a little bit picky, but next time what I will do is I will make the shoulder seam a little bit shorter. I just want to show you. So this is where my shoulder ends over here, but the puffy sleeve starts like down my arm, if you know what I mean. So I feel like it just maybe makes me look a little bit wider than I am. So, say for example, the sleeve starts at the top of my shoulder. If you compare this side versus this side, I think it would look a little bit better like that. So I am going to cut a few centimeters off of the pattern that I have already made. But yeah, overall, so happy. If you watched it all the way to the end, I know it was a whole journey and I really appreciate you still being here. Let's leave a secret emoji. Leave a palm tree. Leave a palm tree to let me know that you watched all the way to the end. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure that you're subscribed because there is going to be a new video every single week. We'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.